Since America with Eden O'Neill. Yeah.
And good morning, Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. Welcome to Friday. It's April the 14th. I am so glad to be here with each and every one of you here on this Friday morning. It is raining here in Eastern North Carolina. There are some thunderstorms going on in and around us. So hopefully we will keep the connection strong this morning for the hour here on this podcast. It's so nice to be with you. Yes, we have been up to our ears in moving boxes and transitioning to right around the corner to our new home, which we are so very thankful for. And we have been very quiet about it for quite a while, but we are just so blessed and we're so grateful to have this new opportunity. So hence the scheduling, a little bit of here, a little bit of there. And it is that a great echo in our house right now as we are moving and transitioning. But I am so glad to be here with you. We have a brand new lineup for you in the next 2 weeks. Thanks to National Religious Broadcasters Convention that happens in May in Orlando, I have been approved to cover it with my podcast, Common Sense America, and I have been receiving amazing new opportunities, new guests to bring to you. And starting on Monday, we will be bringing over to the show a mental health expert, a podcaster, and an author, Tina Yeager. She's going to be joining us. You will see I am just lighting these babies up because we have some great guests coming to you, talking about kitchen table discussions, talking about what's affecting our nation's backyard, talking about what is affecting our rights. How are we being censored in the churches? How Biden is sending FBI agents into the churches to monitor what we are talking and praising Jesus about. Are you kidding me? So we are lighting them up, baby, one right after another, and we're going to be hitting these issues hard. We're going to be talking about our faith in the public square. We're going to be talking about how North Carolina is still a destination for abortions. I totally disagree on this, and we're going to be talking about that. Evidently, there's quite a few Republicans in the state General Assembly working on a new bill to protect the lives of the unborn. So I have been reaching out to state members, elected official offices. I have not received any confirmations yet, but we are looking towards having some people talking about saving the lives of the unborn. Also, this morning, we are bringing back to the show American Liberty News, Victoria Churchill. She is live from Indy. She is live from Indianapolis, where she is talking and covering the National Rifle Association Convention in Indy, and she is going to be featuring her article as she has featured on American Liberty News. You can go to the comments section and check out the article. Vice President Pence, President Donald Trump, Governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, and many other greats will be attending that event. So she's going to be hopping on here in just about a minute or two to give us some live coverage of the convention. Also, second half of the show, Eastern Carolina University, Turning Point USA chapter, Wyatt Gable will be joining at 9:35 this morning. I was given a call yesterday from the Turning Point team that I work with here in North Carolina. And ECU is really, wow. Oh my goodness, wow. Okay, here's what ECU is doing. I can't imagine how much money they are making on what I'm about to tell you. But this is what ECU is doing. Yes, ECU. This is what they're doing. ECU students are fighting yet again. This is the first question of the survey sent to the students to get their opinion on the bathroom facilities at ECU. Given the option, which type of restroom facility would you prefer to use? Gender specific, men or women? All gender, single stall, or no preference? So this survey was sent to me, and so I decided to fill it out this morning. Yes, this is what I did. And I screen captured a bunch of the questions. And you know what? I thought we were going to university to get our degrees to better our lives and better our nation. And instead, I sit there and look at this survey, which is flamingly disgusting. But you know what? I can only imagine the six-figure dollar signs that are following this survey and following the department that's putting this filth out to the student body. So, Wyatt Gable with Turning Point USA will join us at 9:35, and we'll go into greater detail about this bathroom survey. I'm fired up about it, ladies and gentlemen. But on that note, I am very honored to bring back to the show Victoria Churchill with American Liberty News. She is at the NRA convention as we speak in Indy, and I'm excited to hear all the live updates and what is ahead for our nation and our gun rights, and what is ahead for the great state of North Carolina as a potential Lieutenant Governor, current Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, has a huge announcement coming down the pike. So, Victoria Churchill, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me bright and early this morning.
Yeah, you look fabulous. And you are live from your hotel room, I understand it, in Indianapolis?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So tell us about, I've been following your social media as you've been making your travels to Indianapolis. Talk to us about the NRA convention and what is happening. What have you experienced? What are the rumbles?
Yes, so today is the first day of the convention officially. So folks have just kind of been getting to town, whether that's media, speakers, vendors. So, a lot of the convention still remains to kind of play out. But what we do know is today we've got a packed lineup of folks talking about the Second Amendment, presidential candidates, influential Republican leaders. This is going to be the first time that former President Donald Trump and former Vice President Mike Pence are at the same event since leaving the White House. So that's pretty monumental.
Yes.
And I believe that, kind of outside of President Trump's appearance on Tucker Carlson the other night, this is actually his first public event that he is doing since the indictment. So, in the gun community, there's an interesting split. There's some folks that are definitely political, but some folks that just like their gun rights and aren't necessarily political. But I think the NRA is unique where you kind of see that junction. And there's really no other better example of that than today's ILO Leadership Forum. So, it's the best lineup I've seen in a couple years of going to the show, and it's going to be a good one. So we've got Trump, we've got Pence, we've got Governor Noem of South Dakota. We've got a couple other 2024 contenders, Asa Hutchinson. Obviously, with this being in Indiana, we're going to have Senator Mike Braun. We're going to have Governor Eric Holcomb. And we're also going to have some other folks like Vivek Ramaswamy. And we also have, I believe it's 3 video addresses, one from Ron DeSantis, one from Nikki Haley, and I believe Tim Scott is doing another one as well. So, like I said, 2024 declared candidates and potential candidates. Tim Scott did announce that he was looking that he had formed an exploratory committee. So it's interesting. I think what you and I have even talked about on this show before, we weren't sure if he was going to go into it, as he and Nikki Haley do seem to kind of have a pretty solid friendship.
Yes.
But they do both hail from the early state of South Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see if he does fully officially enter the race, which is typically what we see with folks when they form an exploratory committee. This is their way of kind of entering the race without really entering, right? So it's going to be interesting to see, what she does. And, if he can give anybody else a run for his money. He's obviously a pretty prominent member of the Senate, but, that doesn't always translate into national name ID and support. So the race is definitely heating up. And again, I think I did mention that Asa Hutchinson is going to be speaking as well. So he also recently entered the race. He's also been one of the few people to kind of come out completely 110% anti-Trump on everything, which again is also interesting because he's a former governor of Arkansas. Obviously, Arkansas's current governor is Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is, probably one of the most successful alumni of the Trump White House that we've seen. So definitely some interesting dynamics at play there, both in that home state of theirs and kind of seeing how that translates to the national stage as well.
How many years have you been attending this convention?
This is only my second year, but I've always wanted to go. So last year was kind of my first kind of foray into it. But for me personally, it's a great time because I get to see a lot of my friends that live all across the country. I know a bunch of my friends from Kansas are going to be here that, I don't get to see very often. So it's good. They're expecting tens of thousands of people to attend the show throughout the next few days. And it's also good because it follows up on their Great American Outdoor Show, which you and I also talked live from in February. So that show had kind of record-breaking attendance, which is good to see because, obviously as economic times get tougher, people don't necessarily want to be a part of voluntary membership organizations, things that they kind of have to pay for either monthly or annually as it is here at the NRA. So the fact that this is something that so many people value, gives me a little bit of hope because despite what the mainstream media will talk about, people actually do value their gun rights and want to be around like-minded people.
No, they do. They do. I mean, I went to a gun show, much smaller scale gun show in Pennsylvania earlier this year, and I couldn't wait to go. And I absolutely love being around that environment. And one thing I really took away from that gun show was a lot of those who were there promoting and selling are Vietnam veterans. And I absolutely love that. And then you have your Desert Storm and Iraq veterans all there. And it's a room or an assembly hall full of patriotism and believing in your rights and what they truly stand for. And I absolutely love being around that. Talk to me about the energy. Talk to me about if, a first-time person who's tuning in and saying, okay, we've heard negative, conversations about NRA. So what do we see when we get down there? What do we see? Will we get to experience? Do you get to purchase? Or is it more about just listening to speakers?
So the exhibits are definitely a big part of it. There's, manufacturers of firearms parts, holsters, all kinds of accessories, optics, sights, red dot sights, all of the above, really. And so it's kind of a mix between the lectures and the speakers. Obviously, the political side is kind of first and foremost. So the show runs from today through Sunday. And so kind of kicking it off with the political, I think that definitely helps draw some additional folks. But like I said, there's quite a bit of people that are in the 2A space that aren't necessarily political. And so we do kind of see that here. The convention hall, it's lined from corner to corner in this massive exhibit hall with all kinds of vendors from all around the country. At GAOS, Great American Outdoor Show, earlier this year, there's even some other vendors from outside of the country, like Canada. I got to talk to a couple of them. It was interesting, just talking to them about their political climate, which is obviously very different in terms of gun rights.
Yes.
But the outdoor show is more than just firearms. It's, fishing and, angling and just outdoorsy things. So there's people selling like, insulated and heated gloves, and they're like a Canadian. I was like, okay, I'm sure you guys want to come down here because you'll find a lot more like-minded folks.
They're truly a paradise for those who love fishing, hunting, and God's country.
Absolutely. And what you did touch upon, the patriotism, definitely very much there, very prominent. But honestly, one thing that I was very surprised about attending the show last year is actually the family-friendly nature of it. I think it's you kind of get in, your whole family gets in on one person's ticket, so people bring their friends. Especially for the outdoor show, there was a giant booth for Eddie Eagle, which is the NRA's education course for children and how to handle firearms safely. And for some reason the left has an issue even with that, but thankfully the NRA still keeps doing that, making sure that the next generation is growing up knowledgeable about firearms, but also knowing that they are a tool like so many other things, and really making sure that we kind of preserve and carry on our constitutional rights, kind of throughout the next few generations. And people came with children of all ages, which I also think is great. And I actually think that's something unique because again, as you touched upon, the gun shows go on all over the country, but I was pretty happy to see that with the NRA, just the past two events for them that I've been to and covered. So
talk to me. I mean, there's always rumors. Lamestream legacy media are gonna bash NRA or anything that is all about God, country, and family. What kind of, have you seen any protesters? Have you seen any kind of negative storylines in and around this convention, especially with all of as legacy media and David Muir likes to report every night, oh dear God, another shooting has happened. But they don't talk about the mental health issue. They don't talk about the lack of parental involvement. They don't talk about any of the other issues. So I guess my curiosity is, how is NRA fending off the potential protests and things of that nature in Indy? Or did they pick Indy as a safe spot, heartland of America, so this wouldn't necessarily happen? Say if they had it in New York City, oh my goodness, there'd be protests until the cows come home. They call out the National Guard. But I digress.
I actually haven't seen too many. I'm sure there will be some, because, there's kind of always a draw to both the people that like our issue and the people that don't. There was a little bit of resistance. So some of the NRA's leaders, including Wayne LaPierre, have been here throughout the week. So they did have a kind of day on the Indiana State House floor, kind of mentioning that the NRA was coming to town, and there was definitely a group of mom demand activists that were there and not happy. But that's the little bit of protesters that I've seen, that they were just kind of saying, oh, it was disgusting that the State House was honoring these people that have come here. But it's mom's demand. They show up in their red shirts. They just do whatever they feel like, just to get a few 15 seconds of fame on the news. So they'll always be there. But, obviously, to combat them, we have Our Ladies in Teal, the DC Project. I know you're very familiar with that group. It's a group of mothers and wives and sisters and leaders in so many different areas of communities. Multiple of the leaders for the group are, either state legislators or they're, sheriffs and law enforcement officials. And so it's really a diverse group of women that the left just completely ignores, but they're actually doing their own little march to the Capitol this afternoon. So they're there again to kind of be a voice for women for the Second Amendment. So I love seeing and covering the work that they do as well.
Yes, most definitely. So talk to me a little bit about any updates on North Carolina or any other states. Let's focus on North Carolina first. Obviously, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson is, whispers around the state, whispers around, a lot of the Southern Territory. His upcoming announcement for running for governor of the great state of North Carolina. What are your thoughts? I've read some of the articles that American Liberty News has put out with regards to Second Amendment rights. Talk to us a little bit about him and give us a breakdown on what you know and what what if you would be a fortune teller for a hot second, what do you think would be ahead for North Carolina and our gun rights?
Well, North Carolina has been in the news for a couple of different reasons. So, one of them was actually one of the Democrats that serves in the state house flipped to Republican, giving them, I believe it's a supermajority now. So hopefully signs like that point to the fact that this radical leftist agenda that is being pushed in so many states, North Carolina is one of the states that actually says, no, we're fed up and we're going to not have this anymore. And I think that if Mark Robinson is able to, if he does announce for the governorship, and then if he is able to win in later on down the line, that I think he would be very successful. He's obviously done a great job as the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, coming from an activist background, being a very vibrant voice for the Second Amendment. He's a great orator. He came to talk to this convention last year, so it was great to hear from him then. And, I think he has a message that many people can connect with. And I look forward to kind of seeing his platform and his influence grow, not only in the state of North Carolina, but also across the country. And I think he's a great advocate for Second Amendment rights, but also so many other issues that folks in North Carolina and across the country care about. And, hopefully just the sign of that one Democrat switching, hopefully it signals to other people, even in more Democrat leaning areas, that there is a reason to fight for common sense values, for conservative values. And, hopefully, just like I'm looking in my home state of Virginia, there's some swing seats, in the state legislature that we're looking to have go our way. And, states like North Carolina and Virginia, they're those states where we know we can get a Republican majority to be able to pass common sense legislation, not only on gun rights, but on a plethora of other issues. But we really need to make sure that we get together as grassroots forces on the ground and make sure that we pull these few candidates that are the difference makers across the line, because sometimes it's one or two votes that makes the difference, something going your way versus not.
Mm-hmm.
And, in Virginia, we're in a unique situation, obviously, where we elect our governor for only one term. And then the legislature right now, it's honestly kind of in complete disarray because we've got so many different folks retiring where they would be a primarying or running against an incumbent member.
Right.
That's with both Republicans and Democrats. And so I know there's been a couple of pieces that have come out just about the sheer number of retirements that we're seeing. I think in Virginia, it's about close to 30%, which is pretty insane. I think, somebody paralleled it to the House of Representatives, and it was almost 150 members of the House, either, not running for re-election or thinking that they may not be returning next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely very noticeable. And I think there are a lot of factors that play into the fact that so many are retiring. A lot of it is they're fed up with the system. And they go to Washington to want to change things. They go to the assembly to want to change things and find out pretty quickly that they're going to be banging their head against the wall 24/7 to even get one thing's done. So I give them a lot of credit for the time that they've put in and honor the fact that they have wanted to be a public servant. But at the end of the day, I also honor the fact that they would like to have a private life and more of a peaceful life. And that speaks volumes to many of those who have served. So I'm really grateful for that. Talk to us about any other state updates that you have on gun laws. Other states, you had talked about Florida last time we were here. You were talking about some other states, some of the heartland of this nation. We talked about Kansas, I believe Nebraska. Do you have any other updates in other states and gun laws?
Those are the main ones. Kansas is looking to, obviously, Laura Kelly is going to override the bill for the repealing of the concealed carry permit fees.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the legislature hopefully is going to be successful in overriding that veto. Yes. So that's definitely one thing we're watching. And then again, I think Nebraska is still in the books. Okay. So those are kind of the main ones that I'm watching. I know there's been some other progress. I believe in South Carolina, I believe they also have some good legislation in the works, but I don't think it's quite as through or as far down the line as some of these other states. So definitely keeping our finger on the pulse of things here, and hopefully looking to, see some friends, make some new friends here this weekend, and hopefully should be a very good show.
Do you have any surprise interviews that may come to American Liberty News because of you being there? Any big names that you've been seeking out for interviews? Have you been able to capture any? I'm sure you have a couple up your sleeve, knowing you.
I've tried a lot of these big name guests. They're only coming in just for a short portion of the day because they've got packed schedules, especially the ones that are running nationwide. Yeah. They want to be in so many other states. They want to be in, Iowa. They want to be in New Hampshire. Right.
They want to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are a little bit hard to get a hold of. So we'll see what happens. You never know what'll happen. But I've got to head over to the convention center here. We've got to, file, get all of our things in a row so that Secret Service can go through and sweep. So it's definitely getting pretty intense, but it's very exciting. It's I believe my second event that I've covered with Secret Service as a credentialed media. So I've done probably about half a dozen of them between being a staffer and, just staffer attending and media, just kind of seeing it from all angles. But it's pretty interesting to see how they handle each individual event. So this is, kind of more stringent than some, but looser than others. So it's interesting because you'd think they'd have a consistent protocol, but at least from what I see, there's definitely some things that are consistent, but it's not like a one-size-fits-all approach, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, Victoria Churchill, American Liberty News, follow her on Twitter and go to al.news on Twitter as well to capture all of their up-to-date news stories. And you know what? There's one on here I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to let you go in a hot second. But, you guys reported that Lady Gaga has been tapped for a federal post by President Biden. I don't know if you heard about that. Were you behind that one? But I was going to read that to my audience before we head over and talk about bathrooms at ECU with Turning Point USA. But on that note, any final words, any final thoughts on Lady Gaga being tapped? by
Well,
President.
it's definitely really interesting to see what the White House is doing in terms of messaging. They're tapping celebrities, they're tapping TikTok influencers to, there's been a few news stories floating around that TikTok influencers want to do their own briefing with the president, and just kind of seeing the
Sorry.
power that they are giving to kind of the mass media, whether that's social media, celebrities in the media, to do their messaging for them. And as you and I have talked about multiple times on here, it's quite interesting to see that, really nobody in the White House is talented at messaging. So
Nope.
I think,
Nope.
not the president, not Karine, not really anybody, like I've said, and I think you and I have agreed on here, it's pretty interesting when, you're Secretary of Transportation, which, by the way, like, nobody's actually supposed to know who that is, right? Like, it's, if somebody knows who's in that role, they're either doing a really good job or a really bad job. And
Right.
most of the time it's a very bad job.
Exactly.
But, I think Pete Buttigieg as the Secretary of Transportation is probably the most skilled, media face or personality or voice for
And
the
that's not
administration.
saying much.
No, not at all. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's some signs of desperation on the part of the White House. I think whenever they do these things, they definitely always stir up controversy. So, maybe they're hoping they can just get headlines that way. But
yeah. Well, looking for truth for the common sense voter, for the common sense listener, common sense mom, dad, go to American Liberty News, and also join us here once a month with Victoria Churchill as she brings us up to dates on gun laws and our gun rights around this great country of ours. And also as she is at the NRA convention, covering Trump, covering Pence, covering all the great 2024 presidential hopefuls. Here we go. Let's roll. Have a great time this weekend, and I'll see you soon.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. We'll chat soon.
Okay, bye-bye. For all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. We're going to take a quick break, and just about 9:35 a.m. Eastern Time, we're bringing over to the show. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We are bringing over to the show ECU's Turning Point Chapter President to talk about the bathrooms at ECU and the money and the dollars that are going in to putting out these surveys on bathrooms. Yes. I'm like, what world are we living in right now? Yes, that's exactly my question to each and every one of you, especially you in Eastern North Carolina. Do you guys realize this is happening? If you haven't, knock, knock, it's happening. Guess what's in your backyard? Yes, the ability to choose and also to ask all the questions. I don't even know what half of these questions mean. And yes, I am educated. Yes, I get out there. Yes, I ran for state house. Yes, I worked for a United States president and members of Congress. But these questions are absolutely ridiculous. So I want to know where the dollars are going and where they're coming from. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And thanks for all those who are tuning in. This is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. It is Friday, April the 14th. We are halfway through the merry month of April, headed into May. Hey, you guys, just FYI, I am planning a lot for you in May. And here's why. It is month of the military spouse, month of military families, Memorial Day, headed into the summer, focusing on all things God, country, and family, patriotism, July 4th, and so many amazing holidays as we celebrate our country, the United States of America, people. That is what we are about here at Common Sense America. Hashtag Common Sense. If you have not yet followed us, go over to YouTube, go over to Rumble, go over to Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I am there, and we are talking about some great issues that are facing Eastern North Carolina, facing this great nation, and we are talking about God, country, and family in our precious, precious kitchen table discussions. So on that note, I am going to bring over to the show a brand new guest, hashtag Turning Point USA, ECU chapter president, Wyatt Gable. Good morning, sir. How are you? I can't hear you.
How about now?
Oh, perfect. Welcome to Common Sense America. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you. And tell you what, Coleman Theodore thinks very highly of you. So I said, let's get him on. He told me all about this ECU bathroom survey. And thank you for sending me the link as I started filling it out. You guys seriously have to fill this out. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, a college campus tends to be a more liberal place nowadays, which is kind of sad. But, we try and give people a voice with our chapter. And then, having that survey, I had an interview with WITN yesterday, and they were trying to, emphasize that the survey was mostly about allowing, more disabled people to have more bathroom choices. But it kind of just feels like a congressional bill almost, where, someone puts a bill in and then they attach something to it to try and get it passed. It's kind of like,
you mean
they're
pork?
just putting that on there to
pork, all the pork. You mean oink, oink? I mean, seriously, that's what it looked like. When did this survey first come out?
This came out a couple weeks ago, and
Okay.
I got it. And as soon as I got it, I shared it to our, Turning Point chapter and Coleman himself, and then tried to get as many people to take the survey as possible.
Mm-hmm. And talk to me about what office from ECU is coming from, because I want to follow the dollars and cents. Who's getting the money to do it, and who's profiting from it?
So the Campus Faculty Senate Diversity Inclusivity Committee, I guess it's a lot of letters. So they sent it out, and I don't know what reason they had to do it, but they did. So, I think it's just more trying to, go with the time so they look more, woke and whatnot with it. So
Let me ask you, so your interview was it WITN, you said?
it was, yes.
So talk to me. So they tried to pose it more on the disabled piece. And yeah, I saw maybe one or two questions in the survey on disabled Americans. And I'm all about that. I'm all about supporting them. But it does not look like it is there for the disabled Americans. It's like what you said. They're slipping in a couple attachments to make it all look pretty and to serve a community. But in reality, it looks like it's infringing on many different people's rights. And it looks as though it's taking away those rights.
Yeah, exactly. The reporter Merritt, she was great. She was awesome. She was, definitely would work with her again. And I feel like, maybe the news station is just kind of, they don't want to make false accusations with the school or not. But I feel like that's what the survey itself was trying to, slip stuff in. And then that's just kind of how it went with it. But, I personally feel the end goal is ultimately changing the bathrooms to not have a gender with them.
Mm-hmm. So have you had other ECU Turning Point chapter students fill this out? And what was their initial reaction? Especially, let's talk about females for a second. What were their reactions?
I mean, and not just, I'll get to the female, but everyone was like, yeah, no, this is just like not a good idea. This is a bad idea. I mean, it's just not a safe thing. And then from the female point of view, they were all like, I don't want a guy peeing beside me in the bathroom type of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely, I agree with that 110% for the safety of women, especially because we're hearing so many stories. It's like people just pass it by. Oh, okay, another woman was raped because of a, gender bathroom situation issue here in the high schools and the colleges and even in public places. And it's just, it's become so confusing. Don't you, as a college student, going to ECU in a very conservative area, especially a part of this state. The state's pretty purple in many areas. What if you were a state legislator? If you were elected to the General Assembly, what would you do if you saw this coming across the desk for our universities here in North Carolina? What would be your first thought? Protecting the student body? Would it be alerting and letting them know this cannot go through? What are your thoughts on that? Because I'm sure you being the chapter president, you are leading the way for a lot of those ECU students. And I'm sure you've thought about that.
Oh yeah, okay. And from the standpoint of leading the way, we went to the whole faculty senate meeting earlier this week, and I had a couple people, like send me their written statements that they wanted me to say, but they didn't want to say it themselves because they were too worried that they'd get, have repercussions from the university, which is very sad that you can't voice your opinion, or you feel like you can't voice your opinion because of backlash. But I think just alerting the student body to what's going on is the most important thing, because I feel a vast majority would probably say this is a bad idea, but they don't want the vast majority's opinion because they know what it's going to be.
Have you seen a lot of your students who want to stand up for their rights? Have you seen them censored in the classrooms, both publicly and privately?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and again, just as a student body, I would say here we're very conservative compared to other schools, but the higher ups, like the teachers and the faculty and the administration, they're very liberal here. And that tends to deter people from wanting to voice their opinion, and they get shot down a lot of times. So our chapter allows people to have a voice and have a safe place to talk about their beliefs.
I'm grateful to Turning Point USA. I'm grateful to what Coleman, Theodore, and the team are doing. I'm grateful to you and your leadership, Wyatt, for leading the way at ECU, especially. Talk to me a little bit about this. So, are you aware of other universities in North Carolina that also are basically sending out the same bathroom survey? Is NC State, Chapel Hill, are you aware of any of them doing it? And I'm curious about the timing with ECU and them putting it out now. Why are they doing it now versus as you guys head into summer? I'm just kind of curious as to timing on that. Have you been able to uncover any of those things?
I'm not aware of any other universities, at least in the state, that have done it. But then again, they probably have their own issues that they got to worry about, with whatever it may be. And then here, I think in regard to when they did it, it's kind of hide it because we're getting close to final exams, because it's kind of like the meetings they have them at 2 p.m. when people are in class, so you get less people to show up and voice their opinions.
What do you hope to get from fighting this survey? What does Turning Point USA's chapter hope to come away from seeing the survey completely destroyed, or seeing the survey updated where it really just truly reflects on helping those with disabilities?
Well, I mean, if disabled people on campus feel there are not enough bathrooms for them, then absolutely add more. That they should be accommodated just like everyone else. But my overall hope is that it is ultimately just shot down, because it's not just bathrooms. It's shower spaces, it's locker rooms, and it's going above and beyond just the idea of the bathroom. So
do you And ECU, again, ECU is right here in Eastern North Carolina and in our backyard. This podcast is here from Cedar Point, North Carolina, but it has a huge national audience. So you're talking not just to the Eastern North Carolina audiences, but California, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, et cetera, Ohio, Indiana. My question to you is, are you seeing more of the gender conversation, these culture wars being really pushed and imposed on students at ECU? Are you seeing that more and more? And I guess the second question to that is, when did you really start seeing this come to the surface?
And the gender stuff, I mean, that's a newer issue, but because I came, when I came here, I was still in the middle of the COVID stuff. So like that's a whole nother story. Cause like we had to get tested every week, and if I didn't get tested, then my student ID would get turned off. So I couldn't get food or get into my dorm
so complete control.
Yeah, exactly.
So you went through that piece, but talk to me a little bit more. So the gender piece, you're seeing more recently. It's now surfacing more at ECU.
Yeah. So this is the first survey or any real piece of, action that they want to take in regards to changing stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But you've seen hints of it, but now it's kind of really coming to the surface and you're getting a good idea of what they want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And then, us as a group on campus, we're open to everything. We encourage people to have different opinions to come talk to us. We don't bother anyone, but I mean, we have constant instances like when we table, people just like coming, telling, yo, F yourself, and, trying to flip our table and stuff like that. So
do you, so I've heard other stories similar to that, coming from Florida, Freedom, Florida. I've heard that when they see your tables, other groups, socialistic, communistic groups really go at the Turning Point table. And I've noticed that it's not the other way around. You guys aren't going at them. You are being attacked by communism. You are being attacked by these socialistic agenda clubs that are being allowed in these universities. So how do you handle that when that happens to you guys? What are your responses? Do you educate them on policy? Do you sit down and just have a one-on-one conversation? Or are they just trying to get you on a recording to then embarrass Turning Point? What has been their method to their libtardation, if you will?
It's hard to kind of, try and reason with someone that they just scream at you and then, try and flip your table or whatever it may be. But I mean, for us, it's good. I'd say it's good for us because people that aren't, fully invested in politics and what's going on, they enjoy seeing, a good meltdown. So, being able to videotape that for us helps. But in regards to people that aren't flipping tables and crazy and they just want to learn, it's a little off-putting because they're afraid of backlash that they might get. So just trying to encourage people to not be afraid to voice their opinion.
Yeah. And you know what? I had the opportunity to be at Chapel Hill with the Turning Point chapter up there. And I was so proud to see these amazing students come around and voice their opinion and not be afraid. And I'm so impressed by what ECU and your Turning Point chapter is doing as well. And I applaud you for standing up for this. You know what? If you could, I want to plan on this. I want you to come back and give us an update as things start to progress, because when do finals happen? I mean, they're right around the corner, right?
Yeah, my last exam is May 3rd. Okay. So just a couple weeks and I'll be done.
And so basically summer starts, and so they slip this very quietly through the cracks so nobody sees it, and then all of a sudden you come back in the fall semester with 10,000 different bathroom choices and a complete confusion. Am I capturing that right?
Exactly. I mean, just quick example, there's a building right across the street. In the time of spring break, they tore it down and put up a new parking lot. So, I mean, I think they could definitely change every single bathroom here over the course of the summer if they wanted to. So,
Well, on that note, I want everyone who is tuning in or I have a lot of people that tune in after the segment, after the live segment, to go check out Wyatt Gable on Instagram, but also check out what ECU is doing. Is there a link that can I post this link on the comments section for them to see the survey?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, if maybe a later show with the faculty senate diversity
Inclusion.
Yeah, all those letters. They're having their meeting Tuesday at 4 p.m. and that's online. So I could send you another link if you'd like.
Yes, please keep us up to date here. I am all about next generation. I'm all about preserving, protecting, and defending our next generation and making sure you guys don't get a watered down education. And I'm about fed up with this DEI, and I call it bull crap. And yes, this is a morning family friendly show, but that's what it is. It's disgusting, it's vile, and it's inflicting these culture wars, which are destroying the very fabric of our American families and our next generation. So I'm all about fighting it. So you send me whatever you got, and we'll keep exposing the truth here at Common Sense America. Wyatt, thank you for being a voice of reason, a voice of truth, and thank you for fighting on the front lines to protect your student body and to provide truth to them. So we are grateful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. We'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. For all those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. And I tell you what, nothing gets me more fired up than just the culture wars that are happening literally right in front of us, whether we want to talk about it or not. We need to talk about it. Stop ignoring what is happening in and around you and engage and engage and engage. We are called for such a time as this to fight. If we don't fight, it's just going to continue to happen. We have got to fight for truth. We have got to fight for what is happening to our education, to our families. The deterioration of all of this is evil. It is the root of evil. So, on that note, as we continue to fight these culture wars with amazing speakers like Victoria Churchill at American Liberty News, like Wyatt Gable with Turning Point USA Eastern ECU chapter, we have some amazing guests for you next week. I tell you what, we have a powerful list of women and gentlemen coming to this show. So I want you to save the date for Monday right here, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Lord willing. We're going to have Tina Yeager. She is a book author. She's going to be at NRB in May. And I have the great opportunity to bring her to the table. We're going to talk mental health. Mental health, big topic that is facing this nation. Post-COVID, pre-COVID, mental health is a major issue here in our nation and around the world. So we're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about her podcast. We're going to be talking about her book and her website. So I want to make sure you guys come over for that. As we talk about mental health, I just sit here and read this Lady Gaga being appointed by Biden administration for mental health reasons. Really? I can't wrap my brain around that. She has some phenomenal music. She's a phenomenal entertainer. But how is she helping the mental health epidemic? I'm not sure. Anyway, we have just about 5 minutes left. I'm going to leave you on this note. I want to make sure if you are here in Eastern North Carolina, if you are in the great state of North Carolina and you're watching Common Sense America podcast, know that there is major legislation happening coming from Keith Kidwell and also some other state house members and state senate members fighting to protect the lives of the unborn. I want you to call their offices and support protecting the lives of the unborn, saving our babies. Let's not be a state that is a destination abortion state. Let's save our babies. No, I'm not on the campaign trail right now, but I'm going to beat that one hard because we must save our babies. Not destroy them like Mrs. Clinton thinks or Biden thinks. Biden, you are a fake Catholic. Yes, you are. Yes, I am calling it out right now. You are not even close to being a Christian, and no wonder they've denied you communion. You don't care about saving our babies. You just care about that almighty dollar. On a final note, as I talk about politics and I talk about the many amazing political figures in our nation, did you guys know President Kennedy's nephew has announced an exploratory committee to run on the Democrat ticket for president of the United States? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. American Liberty News is reporting Kennedy hopes to throw Democrats into some chaos. Yeah, they need it. Republicans should be wary. Okay. So another Kennedy is running for office. Usually this is not a shocker of a headline, especially from my home state of Massachusetts, said Holly Rochebelle. However, Robert Kennedy Jr. announcing that he's going to challenge President Joe Biden in the primary is going against the norm in modern day Democrat politics. The nephew of President John F. Kennedy and son of his brother Robert F. Kennedy is daring to challenge a sitting president in the Democrat Party, where establishment doesn't tolerate breaks in the ranks. Look at how the Democrat National Committee leadership is whistling past the graveyard, ignoring all of Biden's clear signs of dementia. Well, it is the Democrat Party, and they did just elect John Fetterman, but still, this is a leader of the free world, right? Okay, I'm going to send over this to our comment section here at Common Sense America. Go over to the comment section and check out American Liberty News' most recent article on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wanting to run for president of the United States against Biden. Oh, I can't wait to see this. So on that note, see you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all next week. We're right here, Common Sense America. I apologize for the echo. There's no furniture in our house right now. Until then, have a great weekend. Stay dry and many blessings to you. Stay in the Word. Put on the full armor of God. We got a lot to do. We'll see you then.
It's time for Common Sense America.